Welcome back. It's been a while since I posted, but that's because I've been doing a ton of research, especially about Paul. Paul, your time is coming. But we're taking a quick detour and we're going back to my home base, my first love here, astrology, because as I've been studying the later developments of Christianity after Jesus' death, I'm realizing Greek influence Hellenistic culture is super important to understand everything because it inspired everything at that time. As I dive into Greece and their culture, I realized not many people that talk about astrology know fuck all about the actual Greek influence of it. If we are understanding Western astrology, it's very important that we understand the stories of each of the signs. So without further ado, let's begin with the first house, Aries. Aries is personified by the ram, and its planetary ruler is Mars. Mars is the planet of frustrations and ambitions. It's your desires, your goals, but also all the things that keep you from achieving that on a day-to-day. You need to fight for what is yours. Aries is a fire sign, and its story goes like this. A long time ago in ancient Greece, there lived a king named Athamas. Athamas was a good king, had two great children, but strayed in his marriage. He was married to the cloud goddess Nephele, but started fucking around with Ino. When the younger bride Ino became the new wife of Athamas, she plotted against his kids. She was like, these are Nephele's kids, not mine. They got to get out of here. Ino sabotaged the seeds to the entire kingdom's harvest. When the crops didn't grow, the people blamed King Athamas. That was kind of how it went back then, especially in Egypt. You know, if the crops didn't grow, the Nile didn't flood, the gods are mad at the king. He's got to go. In a panic, he sent for advice from the oracle. Ino anticipated this, and she bribed the guards to lie about what the oracle had to say. The guards reported back to King Athamas and stated he had to sacrifice his two children. Clever, right, Ino? Athamas was reluctant, but said, I'll do it. Ino celebrated this. She went outside and she started screaming. She was like, F these kids, they're fucking out of here. But Nephele's the cloud goddess, and she heard. Nephele petitioned to Zeus, and he employed the golden ram. That's right, this is Aries. So if you're Aries, this is you. This is your personification. The ram was enormous and had a fleece of gold. After taking flight, the golden ram, the ram can fly. The golden ram rescued the two children of King Athamas. One of them fell to their death during the rescue flight, but I don't know. That's just part of the story, and that happened. When the golden ram and the last remaining child of Athamas got to safety, the golden ram asked to be sacrificed. Seems a bit strange, and I don't know. It seems like racist to rams to want to be sacrificed in a weird way. What would you even call that? Animal racism? Do rams just like being sacrificed? Why are rams always being sacrificed? Back then, being sacrificed by the gods, especially if it's like this ram, it ends up with you being a constellation. That's sort of an upgrade into your soul. So, sacrifice for an upgrade to your soul, pretty good deal. After its death, Zeus immortalized the creature in the stars, got its soul upgraded. A symbol of bravery for all to see. For the golden ram, without hesitation, went and rescued the children, knowing that it would be in danger, knowing it would be a dangerous flight home, yet still doing it. Aries, a bit underwhelming compared to the other stories we'll get into, but a few things to note here that it speaks a lot about Aries, since Aries isn't supposed to be a super complicated sign. I mean, if you're an astrologer like me, sometimes you play fun. You go, Aries are a little dumb. Include the Tauruses in there. I'm not gonna talk too much shade. I'm a Gemini, so apple doesn't fall too far from the stupid tree. But Aries is a very simplistic sign, and the reason Aries can be associated with leadership isn't because Aries are that great at complex situation handling. It's more so that they're just first. The Aries don't ask a lot of questions, and they just go. It has a lot of exploring aspect to it rather than a thinking aspect. There's a beauty to being first. Being first gets you a ton of rewards, and having strong Aries placements, especially if you have an Aries Mercury, has incredible rewards because you often are the first person to speak up, first person to get places, and, the first person to reap all the benefits. It's kind of like finding a gold mine. I mean, the first one who finds that place, as long as you keep your head on your shoulders, that gold's yours. A way to wrap this up in a more meme style, if we look at the meme I've chosen for Aries, it's someone don't do that, Aries. Got to touch that. Aries got that. Aries like, yeah, don't do that. Okay, well, there's one thing I'm definitely gonna fucking do. Word associations to know for Aries is forceful, for sure. Aries can be very forceful. It's a great fighting spirit though, so love that about them. They're motivated, and they tend to be easily motivated, which, as we can see, can kind of be against them at points. They're brave. They don't have a lot of fear, and they can stick up for themselves and others. It's great to have Aries in your life because, hey, when shit hits the fan, Aries are the first one to perk up and like, let's go. However, downside Aries, fooled easily. These guys, don't trust them with money, probably don't trust them with long-term decision. You need to help an Aries in those aspects of their lives. However, when Aries become evolved, they tend to use that feigned ignorance to their advantage. The second house is Taurus. Now, Taurus is personified as the bull, and its planetary ruler is Venus, the planet of relationships, the planet of creativity, the planet of love. This story is going to be awesome to those who don't know it. Here's the story of Taurus. There was a Phoenician princess named Europa that attracted the attention of Zeus. However, this princess was so beautiful that she was accustomed to gods hitting on her. Europa would pay her respects to the gods, but avoided any relationships. Her unavailability attracted Zeus even further. Rather than using his might to force himself on her, he transformed into a bull with glowing fur, curling horns, and eyes so dark you could feel yourself falling into the void whenever you looked into them. This was Taurus. Taurus and Europa hit it off. "How soft you are," she whispered. "What a glorious creature." Europa wrapped her arms around the bull's thick neck, and Taurus carried her away. Taurus can fly too, just like the ram. They don't all fly, but the first two, oddly enough, can. And he flew to Crete. She never dared to do anything like this before, so she's feeling a little on edge, like, ooh, my Prince Charming, Prince Bull, has come. Her heart fluttered with the wind as they landed on a rocky cliff. Below, dolphins could be seen, leaping from the sea and shining in the moon's light. Very pretty, romantic. "Where are we?" the princess asked. Taurus lowered his head and transformed back into his godlike stature. "Zeus, you fucking asshole." Holy shit, Europa went. "Babe, I can explain," the god swiftly responded. "I'm sorry for the tricks, but I needed you to be open-minded." Zeus be king of gaslighting right now. Europa married Zeus, so it worked, and had 3 children with him, but their love was short-lived. She remarried the king of Crete. That's where they landed, and Zeus moved on from her, as he always does. That is until one day in late spring, Zeus felt a pain in his heart. Europa was dying. As one final gift to his most beloved, Zeus transformed into Taurus, the bull, once again, and together they flew into the heavens and transformed into the constellation we know today, an emblem of enduring love. So a bit creepy on the Taurus story, but this is how the Greeks understood things. So let's look at the meme. Let's look at the meme here and see what how to sum up all this. How Taurus sleeps after a long day of doing the bare minimum. I mean, dude, all Zeus did was transform into a beautiful. He could transform into anything at any time, and that woos her. I think Taurus's story here is how fickle this sort of puppy love can be, yet how strong that when it comes on, it can affect your life. It's also a story of bestiality, which is a bit strange, but what can we see from that? Love happens in many different ways. Word associations with Taurus are loving, steadfast, loyal, but they are a bit of a shut-in. Now, if we look at the story of Taurus, it's a bit of an irritating one. It's a bit of a funny one, where Zeus just essentially tricks Europa into marrying her, but it works. He gaslights her into being an open mind. And then the one person where she was like, I'm not going to fall for a god, she ends up falling for a god. So look at Tauruses in your life and realize that I'm sure they're struggling with love because they keep falling in love with the one thing they swear they're not going to fall in love with. Europa's a bit of a shut-in. She didn't want to have anything integrated, but being a shut-in and being unavailable, sometimes that makes Tauruses the most glittering of gold out there. Moving on to my sign, Gemini. Gemini is the twins. It's actually only one of two people personifications. Gemini is the third house, and its planetary ruler is that little tiny thing, Mercury. That little quick, tiny little thing that keeps going into retrograde all the time. Even though everything's going into retrograde. On the outer planets are in retrograde like half the year. Most people don't know that. Anyway, Mercury is an air sign. And this is the story. Story of Gemini starts off like every single story in Greek literature. Zeus fell in love with another unavailable woman. This time, it was the queen of Sparta, Leda. Using his usual tactics, Zeus transformed into a gorgeous swan, because, I mean, that worked in the last one, so bull works, pretty swan. I see Zeus, it's like when you have the same pickup line on all the girls. Zeus is like, I just turned to a pretty animal. Show him my glory. His swan had grace and pose. I love the Greek stories. Greek babes love a beautiful animal. The resulting children were the Gemini twins, a.k.a. the Dioscuri. That just means sons of Zeus. They begot a huge reputation. So I was reading a lot of the Bible. They begot a huge reputations for their inseparable nature and various skills. Castor, that's one of the twins, was a horse whisperer that could tame any stallion with his words. And Polydeuces was an undefeated fighter that could outbox any man. We're going to go with the old Greek name, Polydeuces. Even I like the Roman Pollux better. Polydeuces sounds like a gross word to say over and over again. So these twins, their confidence was unmatched. But that led them into trouble. For, as handsome and similar they are, there was one fatal difference between them. Polydeuces was immortal, and Castor was not. Two beautiful maidens, Phoebe and Hilaria, captured their attention. Castor turned to his brother and said, "Bro, we gotta make those girls ours." "I agree," said Polydeuces, "but they're promised to some other twins, right?" Knowing this, and without much extra thought, the twins went and swept the maidens off of their feet. They went along with their lives, increasing their reputation and traveling. But as they grew in reputation, their hidden enemies plotted revenge. Those two other twins were Idus and Lynceus. Idus and Lynceus. They plotted to kill Castor since he was not immortal, and it worked. Castor's death was swift. Idus struck the fatal blow, and Polydeuces could do nothing but feel his soul split apart. The following silence was something he had never heard before. Zeus intervened, sending a mighty lightning bolt down from the heavens. Their bodies, the two other twins, lied before Polydeuces, and he called to Zeus, "Father, I don't want to live anymore. Not without my brother." For a moment, even Zeus couldn't respond. The silence was too much. It was these two had been such a chatterbox and had such an influence and reputation on the people that it was kind of like seeing someone famous, really famous, unexpectedly die. Zeus spoke up eventually and said, "You would end your life just because your brother's dead?" "I would, in a heartbeat," responded Polydeuces. Zeus recoiled. "Why would I so easily give up one son when I had just lost my other one?" He's like, you're kind of asking me to lose two sons in the same day here. "Because I am your son, and I've never asked you for anything other than this," responded Polydeuces. A thunderbolt hit the earth, and Polydeuces' earthly life ended, and Zeus brought the soul of Castor into the immortal realm. Together, Castor and Polydeuces were conjoined, forming a pattern of stars. Zeus gazed upon the constellation and rejoiced. The Dioscuri, together forever, shining for all the world to see. Gemini is actually really sad for a story. I mean, the brothers were a bit of hotheads, and they should have known that this was coming to them. But at the same time, they were born with so much vigor. It's hard to contain that all in the realm that they were in. Gemini is actually one of my favorite memes because I'm biased. Gemini waiting for their friends to add them back to the group chat after they left dramatically. Hey, I've actually... I've probably done a couple of these. I'm not very dramatic, but I don't know what it is about group chats. It just makes me want to storm out. I just want to make a scene and storm out. Geminis are very social. They're talkative and they're engaging. However, we all got brain rot, bro. It's so bad. You got if you're a Gemini, put these damn phones away and just sit there and just. Geminis will become like a library for memes if we're not careful, and that's nothing really good comes out of that. House number 4. It's the worst story in the Zodiac. Was probably just brought over by Mesopotamian astrologers and ham-fisted into Greek thinking, but that's neither here nor there. House number 4, Cancer, also the worst name out of all of them. It's represented by the crab. Who is this crab? He actually has a specific name. We will get into that later. Cancer is a very complicated sign. When we were talking about Aries, we were talking about Taurus, and even Gemini's sad, but it's quite simple, the complications. Cancer is where we start to get complicated. So Cancer's planetary ruler is the moon. Now, I know the moon's not a planet, neither is the sun. However, in astrology, we're talking from terms 4,000 years ago. Planet was anything you could see up in the sky. The star, they didn't know that the sun was a star. They didn't know that the moon wasn't just like another planet. So we're using their terms as for that, even though the scientific terms are different. Does it make that big of a difference? No, it doesn't. Cancer is our first water sign, and this is the story. Carcanos the crab was on his way to live an uneventful life. However, the goddess Hera changed that. So that's the crab's name is Carcanos. She was jealous of Zeus's son, Hercules, so much so that she put a curse on him and allowed demons to plague his mind. During the fit of madness, Hercules laid deathly blows to his wife and child. Got dark very quick there, but this resulted in the gods exiling him. I didn't know Hercules did that. I thought that was just Kratos at the beginning of the God of War games. Zeus was no fool, and he knew Hera had a hand in this. Hercules was allowed to return to Olympus if he completed 12 labors. Zeus was like, we can let you back in, bro. He's good. We don't send rich people to jail. You're a godson. Just put in some community service. Each of the labors was supposed to be more difficult than the last. The first task was easy, far too easy. Hera was intimidated and set up a distraction for Hercules' second labor because he was like, that first one, even though it's only supposed to be the first one, way too easy. That distraction was Carcanos the crab. So in the second labor, Hercules was tasked with destroying the Hydra, a sea serpent with 9 heads that could regenerate when it's cut off. As Hercules fought the Hydra, his confidence waned, for he couldn't find a way to actually end the fight. As the heads grew back after each cut, they were technically just in a standstill, a draw. Out of the sand scuttled Carcanos. His eyes locked on the feet of Hercules, and he jetted across the beach. As the hero was distracted with the Hydra, Carcanos dug his claws in between the toes and bravely pinched the fuck out of Hercules. The end of Carcanos was swift. Hercules smashed the crab with his heel, crushing and ending Carcanos. Hercules went on to finish all 12 labors and return to his former glory. Hera witnessed the extent of her jealousy, and specifically the remains of Carcanos, and she felt bad. You didn't deserve this, said Hera with tears in the corner of her eyes. Sorry, let me rephrase. You did not deserve this, said Hera with tears in the corner of her eyes. I'm going to give you a gift so that everyone shall always see your bravery. Gazing upon the moon, Hera resurrected the crab. Its shell was put together piece by piece, just as the moon collects its light in the sky, piece by piece. Hera placed Carcanos among the stars, sitting at the gate of man. Carcanos found a new purpose in the gate, since he was no longer just a little crab, but a constellation. And for every soul that wishes to drop down to Earth, they have to go through Carcanos. Yeah, that's the story of Cancer. It's kind of weird and obscure. And again, if you do some research, it seems pretty ham-fisted into the Greek mythology and pantheon. But it's whatever. There's some associated. We'll save it here. Okay. Here's the meme for Cancers. Cancers thinking about the time they were nice when they should have been a bitch. They want a pinch. They just want a pinch. Cancers are intuitive. They're tough. They're competitive. Great athletes. But they are moody as all hell. And I kind of get it. I mean, sometimes Cancers, you don't want to be born a moody bitch. You get what I'm saying? Honestly, that goes for pretty much all the water signs. Cancers, I know you're moody, but we love you. Your Greek story's a little fucked, though. That was all of our young signs. Now we're on to the middle signs. We start with Leo, the lion. Leo is ruled by the sun as it sits there in the 5th house, and as you can tell, because it's the sun, it's very powerful, very important. And the story of Leo is classic. The Nemean lion ruled over Nemea from his castle, a giant cave on top of a cliff. Though his origins are disputed, he was either made by magic or the love of Zeus and the moon goddess Selene. When the lion grew too large for the sky, Selene dropped the lion down to Hera. And here, the lion started his reign of terror. The Nemean lion began snatching maidens not for conquest like Zeus, but for bait. Nothing made the lion happier than winning in battle. When he dangles maidens from his cliff, their screams would attract every warrior around, yet the lion defeated them all easily. This cannot go on, the god said to Zeus. If this continues, there will be no more subjects to worship us at all. He's killing all the good ones. Zeus looked up from his disgraced son Hercules and set him to dispatch the lion. It's like, here, that's your first labor. That we talked about in Cancer. Spoiler alert, if you probably already know it's going to happen. Hera relented, for she had a part in watching the lion grow up. Let me deal with it, she begged. Zeus, being swayed often by Hera, allowed her a chance. However, the Nemean lion was proud. Rather than listening to Hera's warning, he threatened her. It's time for you to stop. The gods are not happy, warned Hera. This is who I am, snapped the lion. People fear me. I'm a god to them. Hera pleaded, you were king for your era, but step down now. They will send death to you. Do not betray me, Hera. For one swipe and I could end you, growled the lion. Disappointed, Hera returned to Zeus. Hercules was dispatched to deal with him. While the lion's skin proved too thick for blades, Hercules wasn't fazed. Jumping on the back of the Nemean lion, Hercules submitted him in round 4. It's a little UFC joke. Crazy to choke out a lion, by the way. Jeez. I wonder how tall, or the lion wasn't that big. You remember that story where that guy, the biker got that cougar or whatever? It everyone was like, oh, he fought off a cougar with his bare hands, and it turned out to be like a cub. Hera appeared before the lifeless body of the lion. She caressed the golden mane of the Nemean lion and whispered reassurances. Leo's body was then lifted into the air and formed into the heavens. Visible to the northern and western hemisphere, the Nemean lion can be adored by all in the northern and western hemisphere. What can we learn about Leos? Well, let's just look at the meme. This is Leos. Me, if you need to call me, no matter what time, day or night, I'll be there. Leos. I swear, they will get so mad at you if you don't answer their texts. Yeah, you will quadruple text these motherfuckers, and it's like, how did you fall? You were just giving me your full attention. You've fallen off a cliff all of a sudden. Leos are confident, ambitious achievers. They're like the lions. They get out and get what they want. They're fairly intelligent. They know how to use bait, and but however, they're cheaters. Leo is a sex sign. It's one of the 2 sex zodiac signs. Leo being the masculine one, Scorpio being the feminine one. We will get to Scorpio soon. However, just know that Leo is all a story of pride. The lion had his time, lived like a king, lived well, and got away with it until he was given the warning that they will send death to you, and he ignored it. He should have paid attention to Hera. He should have listened to his mother. Every Leo ever. Virgo, the 6th house, and it is represented by the Virgin, the second of the 2 signs associated with people. Funny enough, they're both ruled by Mercury, the twins and the Virgin. Virgo is an earth sign, and this is her sad story. Persephone was the daughter of Zeus and the goddess of the harvest, Demeter. When Persephone and Demeter teamed up, they empowered the world with beauty. For Demeter would fly over the land and plant seeds, while Persephone would follow, bringing spring season as the spring goddess, spring behind her, like butterfly, like having a jet engine, but it's like butterflies. It's like having like when planes eject that white smoke out, but she does like butterflies and rainbows. Unfortunately, the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. Hades, lord of the underworld, fell in love with Persephone. Hades knew she would never love him as he is, so he devised a plan to imprison her until she did. Hades stalked Persephone and Demeter, and he saw the love that they had together and the beautiful crops that the love nourished. However, Hades didn't care about the beauty. One morning, Persephone was alone picking flowers, and a tornado emerged from the ground. She was carried away into the kingdom of Hades. He was the tornado. Overnight, Demeter's skin turned gray as she faded. The gods watched solemnly. Not even the cruelest would laugh at Demeter's pain, for her love only ever nourished. She was a low-drama bitch. Without her other half, the environment suffered and beauty was lost. Zeus realized what was at stake and went to the underworld. I'm the father of the gods. Release her, Hades, bellowed Zeus. Hades grinned, baring teeth as pale as his skin. His skin is very pale also. Zeus felt his gut sink. What's she eating? He knew. 6 pomegranate seeds just this morning. This had been the plan all along. For no one who ate the food of the underworld could ever leave. Zeus frowned and thought for a moment. Then I decree that Persephone will spend 6 months here and 6 months with her mother to atone for eating the 6 seeds. I guess the rule doesn't matter, and I guess you can split your time like that. Hades was reluctant, but agreed. 6 months with a girl is better than no months with a girl. Am I right, guys? For he could not keep his love indefinitely, but he would have her half the year. With the oath made, Persephone reunited with her mother. My other half, my beloved, how I have missed you, Demeter rejoiced. The people rejoiced as well, for the harvest returned and the spring glowed with the warm sunshine. For her diligence and ability to survive men, Persephone was given a constellation called Virgo. Her appearance in the sky represents her stepping back into the underworld. So when you see Virgo and Virgo seasons happening, it's because she's going back. So if you're a bit bipolar and you're Virgo, this is why. It sucks, but she has such beauty to her. She really does. And it's sad that these fucking dudes can't just let her do her thing with her mom and spread sick-ass crops all the time. But that's the story of Virgo. You know, so some zodiac signs got to be the sign of bad fortune and shit out of luck. The meme. Virgo's after a long day of fixing everyone else's life. Yeah. But we got to love our Virgos, okay? They are survivalists. They're dedicated. They're practical. Bit of a nitpicker. Sounds weird coming out of my mouth for some reason. A bit critical. But Virgo is a story about stunted growth. Persephone was capable of giving so much to the world, yet for no reason she's taken away from it other than someone's jealous-ass, lonely-ass fucking incel. And this is a battle that's happening in our life right now with, you know, the religious right. I mean, everything sucks on either end. It's not a political channel. But they want housewives. They want breeders. They want population control. They want to make sure that women aren't empowered. And I know for a fact, because nothing scares the shit out of an empowered guy like an empowered woman. That's why they got to contain them, okay? These hatchaputs, they're fucking too much to deal with, man. People don't want to realize how sick things can be with a woman leader. Libra is the 7th house. It's represented with the scales. Or, in some places, it was represented with the yod, which is like the yoke, which puts 2 bowls together so they can like push a load. The scales work too. They essentially have the same meanings. Libra is the 2nd Venus planetary ruler along with Taurus. So Tauruses and Libras. Your planetary ruler is Venus, and that means that love, beauty, relationships, fashion, all that plays an important aspect in your life. Look at where your Venus is. look at where your Libra house is, because that's going to tell you a lot about these topics. Libra is an air sign, so it's the masculine side of Taurus, and this is the story. Another kind of sad one, dude. Kind of hate Zeus after all these. Before time began, as we humans understand it, Zeus was seduced by the grace of Themis. For when she spoke, everyone listened and trusted that Themis would be fair. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope it's not Themis. Wait, Themis? However, as Earth and time were created, Themis would not remain idle next to Zeus. She meddled in the affairs of humans and shared truths among them. Why are you helping them without their adoration? Asked Zeus. It's not our job's to help people, but we get worshipped by them. I feel a calling, my love. We cannot expect them to do right on their own. We must share truths and give them a chance, said Themis. Zeus was either convinced by Themis or knew arguing with her was pointless. The truth of that may never be known. Very well, let the temple at Delphi be your home base. Humans will be allowed to visit you there. Delphi, Oracle, Delphi, same one. Themis descended to her temple and began enlightening the humans. After teaching them reason, fairness, and prophecy, humanity began thriving. I mean, once you get reason, fairness, and prophecy down, that's pretty much all you need. That's what I'm working on. Rather than return to the temples of the old gods, humans chose to worship Themis. Jealousy grew in all the gods of Mount Olympus. Why does she have to intervene so much? Questioned the sun god Apollo. By being there and teaching them truths, she is making herself more popular than every one of us because she's actually motivating and giving human stuff. Zeus wanted to keep the peace and summoned Themis up to the mount. Would it not be a good idea to step back now that humans are, they know the difference between right and wrong? Themis simply asked, why? Zeus had no good answer. And he was really only annoyed by the complaints of other gods. He didn't really care otherwise. And Zeus respected Themis. She'd give him 2 sets of children. However, Zeus conveniently fell for Hera. As we know, Hera's the other ones in the earlier Zodiac signs. So this is not told in order in any way. Hera is the goddess of marriage. She replaced Themis as the queen on Mount Olympus. Zeus kept Themis, though, on the pantheon as an advisor. I mean, she obviously understood fairness and reason and such. Eventually, the entirety of Mount Olympus fell, and the gods abandoned Earth. Besides Themis, she is still residing at the Temple of Delphi. Humans forget about Themis, but she is stubbornly still there and gives good reason to all those that choose to communicate with her. Astrologers gave her the constellation Libra, so Themis was actually never immortalized in the star, and that it was actually later given to her by other astrologers. So technically Libra doesn't have any right to be there because it's people given, but whatever. Look at Carcanos the crab in that shit-ass store. I'm joking, Cancer, sorry. So a bit sad because I guess Themis is still just chilling on her own, alone, after she got dumped by Zeus. But let's look at the meme to understand more. Typical Libra behavior. I hate drama. Meanwhile, they're literally stirring the pot. And this is Themis that, with her little sassy why. I mean, technically she's right, but it's like, bitch, this is how the gods work. You're telling me you're the goddess of fairness and reason and justice and all this shit, and you don't know that you're pissing off the gods because they aren't getting any worship, and that they will figuratively die off Earth if they don't get worship. She's kind of fucking stirring the pot, but it's because she's playing a bit of a kind of satanic role given the humans' knowledge and light beyond their means, and pissing off gods in the meantime doing it. So very interesting. Honestly, if you're looking for, I think Libra, you could replace the scales with Lucifer. There's a good argument for that based off this story. Libras are persuasive, charming, popular. However, they often are indecisive and they can never decide anything, which is a bit strange because they are the judge. However, you often get stuck off of what's better, make a decision that's better for the long term or a decision that's better for the short term. Because if we don't have enough good decisions in the short term, we never get to the long term, and you see how that gets confusing. Libras are full of the choices, the weights of consequences, and like Themis, they often, sitting right in the middle of the zodiac wheel, bear a lot of the weight between the higher ups and the lower downs. And the more you try and help from that position, the lower downs, you can feel the heat from the gods above. So Libra is playing that mediator role, and Virgos often are in on this too. It can kind of make them a bit mean, but it comes from a place that they see how much meanness there is. And that's the battle, is that there's so much meanness in the world, yet how do I find love in it? That's why Libra is the masculine love. It's not so much about the feels and the romance like Taurus. Taurus was, I dramatically fall in love and I get swept away on my feet. Themis isn't a story about that. It is a story about love, but it's like the analytical, diplomatic love. It's the marriage contracts. It's all the other things that come with committing to another person. Themis being committed to Zeus and choosing to do her own actions that were, antagonize the gods, kind of made her fate depressing. But in the same way, it also immortalized her among the people. Okay, let's get on to the monster. In astrology, Scorpio is often seen as the most powerful sign. It's a sign of transformation, and it sits in the 8th house, which is the house of death and sex. Scorpio's traditional planetary ruler was Mars, but then as our understanding of the solar system and science expanded, so did our understanding of astrology. And the new planetary ruler is Pluto, which I guess they say is not a planet anymore. But as I said, in astrology, those definitions don't matter. As I was talking, it's moons are planets, suns are planets, it's whatever. Pluto, that tiny little thing, way back there, is important. To put this in an easy to understand example, think of gears on a watch. Pluto moves very slowly far away, but that's because it's a very tiny, fine gear. And you think that doesn't matter because it's such a small movement, but that transformation actually is able to pinpoint exactly where you are in your life and what needs to be done. So you could be an astrologer and just read into Pluto stuff alone because it's going to have such severe interactions with everything it comes across. Speaking of severe interactions with everything you come across, here's the story of Scorpio, the second water sign. Artemis. Now we know Artemis, Mars. This is where it comes from. See, it's all tied together. Artemis was the best hunter of all the pantheon. While she was competitive, she did not desire violence and only hunted with reason. When not hunting, she chose to run with the animals and learn their habits. One evening, she was boasting of her ultimate hunting abilities, and no one could best her. And it was like, is there no one that could best me in agility and skill and hunting? The call was heard, and a giant appeared before her. Or Orion. As Orion answered, Orion's belt. I am your equal. Scoffing at his size, Artemis said, big words for a big man. Grab the rock, let's get on the court and test this shit. Immediately they became friends. Immediately they became friends. Artemis was nimble, but Orion had enormous strides that allowed him to catch the fastest of prey. They challenged each other and kept score of their best hunts. However, as time passed, friendship became more competitive than friendly. I could slaughter every animal in the woods, pondered Orion. Artemis was shocked. Why would you do that? This is about adventure, not slaughter. Orion's like, the gods will just use magic and create new ones. No harm done. And Orion left into the forest. Artemis went to Gaia, freaked out, told her what was about to happen. I know, said Gaia. I already have a plan. I know everything that's going on Earth. It's chill. Out of the earth emerged a monster of nature. Artemis hid in horror, but Gaia comforted her. Do not be afraid. This creature is like any other on Earth. Scorpio is honorable and will only protect me. Scorpio hunted down Orion. Orion managed to fire 2 arrows and put his dagger into Scorpio for the inevitable. The stinger of Scorpio pierced the chest of Orion. Orion! Shouted Artemis, but it was too late. Poison had already eroded the corpse, and the giant's husk was now small on the ground. Artemis looked over at Gaia, who was attending Scorpio. The creature was now dying from the wounds that the 2 arrows and the dagger that Orion got on him. Despite your natural armor, I know you feel deeply. I will honor you, for you always protected me. Artemis gazed into the heavens as the body of Scorpio was lifted into the sky by Gaia and transformed into the constellation of Scorpio. I'm not saying Scorpios can't be kind. That's not what this is about. Scorpio was extremely kind to those who it was protecting. However, Scorpios are intense. They carry a ton of power, and you kind of don't want to fuck with them. You especially don't want to... Dude, with Scorpios, just 90%, just leave it. It's not worth it. As a Gemini, Geminis and Scorpios have been in some legendary beefs. If you know, you know. Often it's better just to leave it, okay? Because even if you get the win, that dude's gonna just fuck with you every way he can for the rest of his life. Scorpios will die fucking with people forever. So here's the meme. Scorpio be like, I sometimes open up to people. If Scorpios are acting all deep with you, it's because they're trying to get information on you. Scorpios are passionate, secretive, cunning. However, they are immoral. A lot of ethics don't matter to Scorpios. They tend to chase professions that skirt the edges of morality and more so do things for clout and money and especially power. It's a very power-obsessed sign, as we see with its counterpart Leo, which is the male sex sign. We see it's all about pride. Here we also have a similar theme with Orion being like, I could just kill every animal around. But that's not so much pride. That has more to do with power and feeling control over things. So we see the two different sides of sex. We see one that's obsessed with its pride and its self-image, and then we see this other sex sign that's obsessed with control. If you find yourself in love with a Scorpio, or you are a Scorpio that is loving someone, just know that it is a bit like holding a loaded gun. Don't point it at your partner. It's for protection. That stinger can kill. Sagittarius, the last fire sign. Very interesting because it's the mutable fire sign. So we think of fire signs as like very direct. If they're in a fist fight, they're the boxer. They get in, they get close. However, Sagittarius is the archer. It's a fire sign that chooses to not get close when it fights. It chooses to fight from a distance. However, I mean, that can make them the most dangerous opponent. You don't want to imagine being taken down by an arrow that you can't even see. They got you before you even a problem, bruh. Sagittarius is the 9th house, and its planetary ruler is Jupiter. That's the best one. That's a good one to have. Jupiter is sort of the good fortune and the hype and the expansion. It's when things are growing outward. So that it can be frustrating in its own right when things get too big, but generally people like it when their empire grows. Speaking of philosophy and personal empires, let's talk about Sagittarius. Hey, just like I know Cancer was just known as the crab, but it's actually Carcanos the crab. Y'all got a name too. Sagittarius story time. Pan, god of the wild, got it on with a nymph named Eupheme. Their offspring was Crotus. That's your Sagittarius names, your Crotus. He was a satyr, satyr, like Pan. Crotus loved to forge and live in the woodlands, kind of a low-key life, low-ass, drama-ass bitch. His passion was chasing the muses and learning from their gifts. From them, he learned music, words of wisdom, and poetry. At Mount Hecicon, the muses fed Crotus wine while he listened to their conversations, getting lost in his imagination with their new ideas that they put in his head. Crotus had to hunt animals to survive, and in a daydream, he conceived of the idea of a new hunting tool, the bow and arrow. This allowed Crotus to easily hunt his prey and end their suffering quickly. So as we see, that association with the archer and the bow and arrow actually comes from a bit of a pro-animal to way to lessen suffering. This is actually a tool meant to think of others in a weird way. Even though it's a tool for destruction, it's meant to think of the suffering of others. The gods on Mount Olympus complained, why is Crotus not living with us? He's part god, after all. He should be up here with like Hercules and stuff. Zeus was bothered by these complaints and went down to the woodlands where Crotus resided. Zeus morphed into a songbird for once not to seduce someone, and spied on Crotus as he drummed for his muses. Zeus was inspired. When the performance ended, Crotus began applauding the muses, clapping. Zeus stepped out of the shadows and into his godly form and asked, what magic is this? Crotus seemed unfazed by the appearance of Zeus, almost like he kind of knew he was there. This is how I give thanks. It is saying, you have made me happy. Very well then, Zeus said before leaving. Let this exist for all of us now. We shall applaud when we are made happy. Crotus began drumming for the muses again. Did you see his ridiculousness? Clamored the gods when Zeus returned. No. In fact, I applaud him for doing what he loves. Zeus began clapping, and the other gods were looking at each other in confusion. What is he doing? The following months had Mount Olympus in a complete dramatic mess from this new magic. Clapping. Zeus had brought in clapping. However, Crotus was forever unaware with the drama he caused, for he never went up to Mount Olympus. He lived his best life, and when he passed, all the muses and mortals loved him, for he brought a tool to them that lessened the suffering of hunting. Mount Olympus celebrated the death of Crotus, besides Zeus. These fools hated you for being cool, Crotus. I'm gonna make you live forever. Thus Crotus was lifted into the heaven and given his final form, the lower body of a horse and the upper body of a man, named Sagittarius. This being roams the heavens with its bow and arrow in hand, glittering for all to see. So he's actually a satyr in life, and only when he gets up the constellation do you get the centaur. And fun little fact. To understand Sagittarius, let's look at the meme I have chosen for them. Sagittarius waiting for someone to match their vibes and energy. True. Hey, it's gonna be a lonely road, Sagittarius, but y'all are just too cool, and y'all are my sister sign, so I say that with love, like for real. Sagittarius's adventures, their life tends to be filled with adventures, more than they count, to the point adventuring gets boring. They're free, they're playful, however, they are irresponsible. Not known to be the best of parents, but that's what it takes to be cool. You can't really think of others. But if you search around enough and you go where you're appreciated, not tolerated, you'll find your muses. And honestly, you end up living a sicker life than most. This is the saddest story. Capricorns, I'm sorry, dogs. This was the realest too. Let's just get into it. Capricorns personified, 10th house, personified as the sea goat. Get into that later. The planetary ruler is Saturn. Womp womp. Big Daddy Saturn got all that karma. Always fucking gotta learn more lessons. Gotta learn more lessons, punk. You thought you learned that lesson? Let's learn it 2 more times and then again. That's Saturn. So Capricorn is the last earth sign, and here is its story. Pricus was created by Kronos and was the father of the sea goats. Sea goats were strange creatures, and they were made of the earth, but they could breathe underwater. So they're made of the earth sign. Pricus and his children could walk up the mountains with their front legs and navigate the waters with their fishtails. Not only that, but they could talk as humans. A gift from the gods, since they adored the ability of Pricus to formulate plans. Capricorns are great at planning. Despite all the adoration and despite all the gifts, the sea goats could not wander too far inland. If this rule was broken, their abilities would be lost. Pricus never dared to break this rule, but his children were not as wise. Father just wants to boss us around, some would shout. There is more to this world. We should leave the shore. Pricus demanded that his children stay put, but poorly explained why. The Capricorns are not always the greatest at explaining things, but Pricus was a loving father, and he just struggled to communicate this strict rule to them. As night passed and Pricus slept, his children wandered into the new world. Though he didn't know for sure, the following night, Prychus felt that his children had been lost. Weeks later, a seagull confirmed to Prychus that his children had lost their fishtails and now lived voiceless in the mountains, unable to talk anymore. Prychus was devastated and resorted to his last tool, his ability to turn back time. His dad was Kronos. Saturn rules time. That's where that comes from. A gift from his father Kronos. As Prychus approached to return to the past, Zeus intervened. You cannot change their hearts and minds, no matter how hard you try, Zeus warned. I know, but I must try, mumbled Prychus. Try and try he did, but no matter how many timelines Prychus reset, his children would not listen to his warnings. Their hearts were set on leaving the seas. Sad Doctor Strange, Prychus. Can't find the timeline to save his kids. Prychus realized he had lost his family and decided to end his immortality. Zeus, take away my life. I do not want to live alone. Zeus thought for a second and replied, very well. I will put you at the gateway of souls. You will soothe souls before they depart. Prychus was lifted into the heavens and transformed into Capricorn, the sea goat. Capricorn is seen and admired for its representation of rules and order. And why you shouldn't break them, because you'll lose cool things that are given to you by the gods. So it's a very sad story, as we can see. And Capricorn, the meme here is, when you try and understand why your friend feels sad over a breakup, Capricorn's like, why? Why? You're just losing someone out of your life. It happens all the time. Capricorns are honest. They're responsible. And they're logical. However, they tend to be a bit elitist. It's hard for them to see different perspectives and other sides of things. And that's where that stubbornness comes from, is they really believe that they're right. And that people that are saying they're wrong just are too dumb to understand what they're on about. My faves, probably. I know I'm a Gemini, but I love me some Aquarius, you know. Aquarius is the water bearer. It's technically represented by a human. I said there were only 2 humans, but the thing is that the twins and the virgin are a specific person. The water bearer is more a role that needs to be played, but I guess you could sideline this and say that this is technically a third person in the zodiac well, even though I don't think so. The planetary rulers traditionally is shared Saturn with Capricorn and was a bit of a bad luck planet. Now it has Uranus, again, as our understanding of astronomy, these unseen planets that we could no longer see before. We understand them now. Our adaptation of astrology also changes with our understanding of the natural world. That's how it's always been. Now, the planetary ruler of Aquarius is not Saturn, it is Uranus. Aquarius is the last air sign, and here is its story. Zeus admired all sorts of beauties, as we've come to know. Next in line was Ganymede, a Trojan prince who caught Zeus's eye, and he planned his seduction. That's right, Zeus was a bi king. Fucking represented on the LGBTQ way back in the day, but I bet all the Greeks were a bit LGBTQ, but whatever. Transforming into a giant golden eagle, as Zeus always does, Zeus flew above Ganymede in a field and caught his attention. Zeus landed on a nearby hill, and Ganymede made his way over. What angel are you? Asked Ganymede. Zeus grabbed the prince with his giant claws or talons and flew back to Mount Olympus. Here he dropped Ganymede and transformed back into his godly self. Zeus, god of gods, what have I done for you to bring me here? The quick-witted Ganymede asked. Zeus explained that he needed a servant to pour his drinks. Out of all the people, why me? Insisted Ganymede. None on earth is as intelligent as you. I need someone pretty who will question me and thrill me with charm, Zeus replied. Ganymede thought about the offer and extended a deal. If I am to give up my princely birthright, he's a prince back home, I want eternal legacy here. For you will tire of me, just as you do all the others. Zeus was annoyed. I'll never grow tired of you. I don't grow tired of people ever. 3-ass divorce, have an ass. Then the deal will be no issue, said Ganymede. Zeus was taken aback by his handsome smile and quick wit. Very well, promised Zeus. Many months went on, and Zeus resisted temptation, but one evening fell in love with a nymph. Zeus had grown tired of the eternal youth of the prince, for he was always... As Ganymede poured Zeus his drink that evening, the prince calmly said, knowing, "Is it not time?" Zeus felt sad, but knew Ganymede was right. Zeus lifted his hand, and Ganymede was frozen in place, then lifted into the heavens. There the prince transformed into Aquarius, the water bearer, whose wisdom allows life to continue flowing effortlessly. The meme I have chosen for Aquarius is this one: how I feel at any social gathering. Aquarius can be a bit of an alien. I notice that a lot of Aquarius suns, a lot of Aquarius moons, and a ton of people like Pisces with a lot of Aquarius placements tend to always feel like an alien. And, you know, you kind of are. You're special in that way. Zeus chose a very special, quick-witted human who honestly was kind of ready to give up his life on Earth because he, Loki, if I'm reading between the lines here, wasn't fitting in even as a prince. Aquariuses are independent. They're friendly. They're wise. However, they tend to be very insecure. As the sister sign of Leo sitting opposite of the sun, Aquariuses have a lot of the knowledge, ability, skill, charm, wit, yet they tend to not enjoy or not get what they want out of people. That tends to be where that alienness comes in. Here I am days later because I, in editing, realized I messed up the Pisces audio. Great, on the last one. Gonna happen. Anyway, here is Pisces, the fish, the 12th house, the very last of the zodiacal wheel, and a very, very, very complicated sign. Planetary ruler used to be Jupiter. Expansive, good luck, good fortune. However, Pisces was later shifted to its very natural home planet of Neptune, the lord of the oceans, the fish roaming in the deep blue winds of Neptune, a gas giant, way the hell out there. I think 1 billion miles away from the sun. Pisces is the last water sign, and this is its story. Before humans inhabited the earth, the land was ruled by different levels of powerful gods. Typhon was a monster born of Gaia in the hellhole of Tartarus. His enormous power was equal to that of Zeus. And even the father of the gods knew it himself that he shouldn't engage in battle with Typhon. However, Typhon's existence was contained in Tartarus, but Zeus knew that wouldn't last forever. Eventually, he'd get out. Mount Olympus continued to live carefree lives until one day the earth ripped open and Typhon escaped his prison. The roar from the beast was so terrifying that for the first time in Mount Olympus history, the gods were scared, except for Zeus. "Get out of here now. That beast looks to climb into our temple. It is of equal might even to I, the father of the gods. We shall fight, but I do not know who will win." The gods ran terrified to all corners of the earth. Zeus did not see his beloved Aphrodite among them, and he sent out a prayer. So gods pray in the old Greek pantheon. "Please let Aphrodite leave this area so that she may be saved." Aphrodite was nearby at a waterfall when 2 giant fish came down the river. "Aphrodite!" the 2 giant fish shouted. "What is it?" she asked. But before they could respond, the ground began shaking. Typhon was on his way. The 2 fish told Aphrodite to tie their tails together so that they could swim together as a raft for the goddess. Aphrodite did so and hopped on the backs of the 2 fish. They sped off, narrowly avoiding the monster that began reaching down to grab them. As the fish sailed into the distance with Aphrodite, the monster returned its sight to the god's mountain. Zeus waited with anticipation. When the 2 collided, the battle lasted longer than mortal years could count. The gods had about given up hope when Zeus suddenly got the high ground and threw down all of his thunderbolts at once, right between the monster's forehead. The monster fell down to Tartarus and was covered with so many layers of rocks that it will never breathe again. When Zeus returned to Aphrodite, she told him of the 2 fish that saved her. Zeus lovingly looked on the fish and stated, "You will now be known as Pisces, the fish, a symbol of balance between reality and emotions." The two fish were lifted into the heavens and transformed into the constellation of Pisces, glittering for all to see. Interesting twist there at the end. Why does Zeus say that they are a balance between reality and emotions? When I first read into this, I was kind of looking around the story. I was like, what? This is kind of more of a heroic story. But then I realized Zeus sent out a prayer. A god sent out a prayer. Hope. And this is really what brings the inspiration of Pisces, is the hope that things will get better or be saved even when they're out of your control. This is the good luck of Pisces, too. That it's good luck that Zeus's prayer was heard and his fortunes were answered. Pisces, especially if they're unevolved, will have a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver, thus creating a lesson for whoever they promise to, that they have expectations, emotions, and then they have their reality of what is actually given to them. A lot of Pisces, if you look up, are actually wicked good salespeople, CEOs, business types, because of their ability to dance on that line. When they learn about their gifts, some use it for evil. Some, however, will use it for good. A Pisces that I knew was a past life regression specialist and used her powers to heal people rather than, build like an oil company or something and extract billions of dollars out of the ocean. Whatever the evil Pisces are doing. All right, let's look at the meme. This is for you, Pisces. Me lying in... Sorry. This is for you, Pisces. Me lying awake in bed, wondering why I'm always sad, while also purposefully thinking about all the things that make me sad. For a good luck sign, or one of the better luck signs in Pisces, yeah, there is a lot of reminiscing on sadness. Well, a lot of Pisces that you will meet will struggle with love because their expectations will just be too high. It's going to take a lot of time sitting in bed, sad, reflecting on why you're sad when it's you that's in your own way. Pisces shit. Okay, Pisces, positives. They're creative as all hell. They're romantic, and they're generous with others. However, a lot of that comes from a deep-seated paranoia. Just as we see that Aquariuses are insecure because they don't really get what they want out of people. Pisces are always insecure because they're scared that they're not reading the room right and that they're not actually in control of the situation as they might be. The whole, Zeus having to throw his prayer up and hope that fish save him. If you are not a Pisces sun, I encourage you to see in your chart where Pisces is going to lie and what planets you have in Pisces, because this is really going to reflect a lot of expansion for you. But not only a lot of expansion, a lot of hidden enemies. Usually when you end up working in you get the shiny new job, right? Everyone's shaking hands, congratulating you, being friendly with you. Some of them are trying to figure you out so that they can exploit you later. This is just something you're going to have to keep in mind. And again, this is what chews at Pisces, because they tend to get what they want only to have these stupid little hidden enemies and psychic enemies everywhere, little Yu-Gi-Oh card traps in their life. But it's mostly that Pisces can just sense it. Everyone really has this. Like in your chart, Pisces falls somewhere. But Pisces, if you have strong Pisces placements, Pisces sun, if you have a Pisces rising, this is going to be a little more prominent in your life. That was all of them. We got through every single Greek origin story of the Zodiac. A lot of interesting thoughts to be had here. And one is that I've gone through so much, I guess, different realms of spirituality. If you've been on my channel recently, you know that I've been really heavy into the Judeo-Christian origins, not only just the Jews and the Christians themselves, but topics such as Satan and Satanists. I just interviewed a Satanist and had a lovely time. But I've also been, in the realm of spiritual authors. I've been in the realm of tarot readers. I've been in the realm of astrologers, past life regression, UFO researchers. What I've found personally is that out of all of the religious and spiritual topics I have encountered or mostly done videos on so far, because there are other topics I've explored but I haven't done videos on, astrology is the most helpful. There's a ton of fear-mongering about astrology. It's really nothing but stories and tools to help you learn and understand morals and ethics and dilemmas that you'll go throughout your life repeatedly. It shows you when you're going to hit those dilemmas, when you're going to have transformations and other aspects of your life as well. I'm not the greatest astrologer in the world. I'm an amateur, but I encourage other people to open up their minds and understand where the origins of all these ideas came from, because it gives you a better love and appreciation for everything in front of you. I recommend Christopher Renstrom. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I don't know what the next video will be. It'll either be over stupid, sexy Paul, or it'll be over the Roman pantheon. So that would be this exact same thing, but the Roman pantheon, which would have been like Mercury, Venus, Mars, etc., and the stories that went with that, which gives you an even deeper understanding of astrology, because then you know not only the zodiacal wheel, but then you also know the stories of the planets that will be falling in them. My name is Lane. This is Connection Lane. We're trying to figure out all the different connections between all the different spiritualities and religions, where it lies, where it came from, and interview some people along the way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll miss you. Until next time. Bye-bye.